what's brought you in today?
Oh, I've just been kind of struggling this week with a lot of mass chaos that's going on.
Okay. What's going on?
Well, my dog's going to have puppies. I'm still trying to work. I got a huge bill in the mail. My grandpa passed away, and just trying to keep up with all my chores and stuff I have to do at home too.
Okay, so it kind of sounds like there's a lot going on, like you explained, with the puppies, getting ready to have puppies. You've got you talk about a big bill that's come in that you're dealing with, and then find out about your grandfather that's passed away.
Oh yeah, and I've been coaching soccer.
Okay, and then you're coaching soccer and stuff. So it sounds like you've got a lot going on. How have you been handling that so far this week?
With my grandpa, I don't know because they've kind of been estranged from us for about the last 10 years. It's just been about the last year and a half that we've kind of tried to mend fences together. After the whole bank thing, they kind of quit talking to us. And then all of a sudden they kind of started reaching out like they wanted us to be back in part of their lives. But my grandparents have done this with every kid in their family. So, it's just, it's something that they do. I don't understand it. I don't know why, but I cried when I first found out, but I kind of feel like maybe I've already mourned that relationship when they weren't there for us when we needed them to be morally supportive and play that parent and grandparent role in our lives.
Okay, so it sounds like you were saying, explaining about them not being there as far as a grandparent. So as far as some of the feelings that you have with the passing, that it sounds like maybe that's with them not being there as a grandparent as much as you felt they needed to be. This kind of helped you cope with the emotions of mourning and everything as far as him passing away. Is that correct?
Yeah, I've talked to my cousins, and my cousin Shelby, she's kind of had the same relationship with them. Her dad died when he was 2, and ever since her dad died, they really haven't had a lot to do with her, which I never have understood. I always thought you'd want more to do with that child. If your son was gone, that's your only token of them being left. But it's like they didn't see it that way. And so I guess her and I kind of feel the same, so I can kind of communicate with her about it. But then my other cousins, they called me to ask me a question about the obituary, and they're bawling and crying and stuff, and I feel like I've already shed those tears and kind of mourned the relationship, so I don't know if I feel guilty and I feel like I'm being heartless. Then at the same time, it's like I've kind of already went through this.
Okay. So talk a little bit about the feelings, emotions that you're going through. It sounds kind of like that you've showed some emotion towards it a little bit and kind of got past that. Is there any other feelings or emotions that you're coping with over the recent news?
I just feel numb at this point. And there was this other couple from Bassett, and we bought our club calves from them. And when my grandparents weren't there for us no longer, these people were. my grandparents never have been real active, say, in my life. They come for your big events, like your graduations and things like that, but they weren't there for you, you know, when you were showing your calves at the county fair and doing this or doing that. And Betty have always been with me in that whole journey. So when I lost her, I felt that's when I like lost a grandparent, because she was just, you know, I screamed the minute I found out and I cried and everything, but I didn't feel that. And then again, I felt like I got the burden put on me, because my aunt's like, well, you need to tell your dad and your brothers and sisters and stuff. They didn't even call my other cousins. I had to do it. So it's like, I just kind of angry at the same time.
So it sounds like with them, you know, with her coming and telling you to get a hold of Dad and everybody, kind of made you, sounds like it made you feel like the responsibility, or that big part of responsibility, was being put onto you to get in contact with everybody. Does that sound about right?
Yeah, they were, I found out last night after my dad and brother went up to help with, you know, planning. They weren't even going to include one of my cousins in my granddad's obituary. And my dad said, he's my brother's kid. Like, just because my brother's gone doesn't mean you cut him out. Because my dad's lost 2 of his brothers, and they have nothing to do with Shelby or Aaron. It's like, I want to scream at all these people, but you can't do that when you go to a funeral. You can't come in and say, you people are stupid. So, I have a lot of tense feelings about attending the funeral and dealing with the aftermath this weekend and stuff.
Okay, so it sounds like you got some things that's on your mind that you're thinking about. In talking about some of the feelings that you're going through, you know, Granddad passing away, some of the concerns that you have with how things have been handled during this time, feeling that you, or the responsibility has been put onto you. How about with the support system? What kind of support system do you have that is helping you go through this and deal with all this?
Well, Mom and I really can't talk to my dad about it, because you can't say your family is a bunch of morons. So it's kind of like me and Shelby and my sister and my mom, kind of against the rest of it, and my Aunt Nick, because they didn't even call her and tell her, and she lives 7 miles away. I mean, it's just, I feel like I'm having a clash with the hillbillies from the backwoods on this deal. So,
how about your spouse? Has he been pretty supportive with you and helping you out through this?
sometimes he's too supportive, and I'm just like, get away from me. Like, I need my space. I need to process this. Like, I think he thought I should be very upset and crying and stuff, and I'm not. And I'm just trying to keep up my daily life too, because if you have this huge disruption, it's gonna upset Bella, and I got too much going on right now. I'm having a very hard time mentally processing all of it, and I haven't talked to my cousins in a long time, and they didn't treat my brother so nice. So then tomorrow and stuff going and trying to deal with them, like, I really don't know what I'm gonna say, because my one cousin I was really close to, him and I spent almost every day together. And then his dad doesn't even say 2 words to my dad yesterday. but I don't know how I'm gonna not be like, hey, how you doing? Because that's how we were. And how do you say, you know, like he still invited me to his wedding and everything, and I left him off my guest list. I don't know how to. I don't know if I'm going to get closure from this or if it's going to open old wounds.
So it sounds like, there's a lot to think about as, once the funeral comes up and what's going to happen or how you're going to deal with things afterwards, like you were talking about. As far as everything coming up, getting the information, the past and everything, how do you feel? Do you feel that you're handling the emotions, the stress, and in the situation pretty well?
I think so. My mom doesn't say I am because I'm not remembering things. I feel like I can't stay on task. But then I wonder if it's just I have all these things in my mind going. And like I keep trying to play scenarios in my head, like how are you going to react? What are you going to say? Like are they going to let me talk to my grandmother, or are they going to kind of try to sidestep it so I don't really get to talk to her? I'm just trying to figure out how I'm going to do this.
After what you mentioned there, some of your thoughts and what you're thinking, going to the funeral, are they going to allow me to talk to grandma, or are they going to sidestep and try to prevent that? What are some things that you've thought about that might be able to be beneficial to you in accomplishing, let's look at the one aspect of wanting to talk to your grandma, either at the funeral or after the funeral. What are some things that you think would allow you to accomplish that task, to be able to communicate with her?
I'm not 100% sure. I just don't know if my aunt's gonna even really not be right there beside her, or how this is gonna play out. I mean, they're very, looking now back as an adult on my childhood and the way their relationships are, they're a very dysfunctional family. They don't have a lot of communication. I didn't even know until I was in high school that my granddad had a mental illness his whole life, and that he was diagnosed as a schizophrenic, and that he had to be on his medication or he'd wig out. Nobody told any of us that, which then as we grew up and found out and were adults, I mean, it kind of makes us wonder, okay, my cousin Shelby struggled with depression and trying to take her own life. My sisters dealt with it. I have anxiety. So it kind of really makes you wonder, is this like a hereditary thing that we're getting? And would we have been more beneficial if we would have known about this and people would have kind of said something to us? And is this why their relationships are screwed up with their children? Or is it just that they're dysfunctional and don't have communication? Or what? So I don't know how. I just think it's going to have to be, I'm going to have to take it minute by minute, second by second, to get through the next couple days and dealing with some of these people that I know once my grandmother passes, I'm never going to see again. So how much of a bond do you really forge with people like that either?
And it kind of sounds like that you got some good ideas and that you're looking in the right direction as far as, for example, like what you mentioned, just taking everything minute by minute, second and day by day. And I think that's a good aspect of looking at situations, is not wanting to rush yourself into it and taking, low baby steps. I think that's something that you've been using that's probably beneficial with you, and it kind of helps you get along. Maybe looking at, as far as communicating with your grandma and stuff, have you thought about, during the funeral or after the funeral, maybe there's a situation that we can look at, what if, a question, if you are unable to communicate with her, would, after the funeral, maybe the next day, where everybody's gone, going about their business, maybe being able to get in contact with grandma and having that moment to be able to sit down and communicate, is that something that could be possible?
I kind of said something to my mom about that. I said, maybe in the next couple weeks, maybe we should go up there and ask her if she'd like to come down and stay with us for like a week or two. Just maybe like a change of atmosphere, and maybe be able to, I know you're never going to get back time, but maybe be able to have some of that time, and maybe it will help my dad heal a little bit better too. Maybe it would just help all of us, because she is the last grandparent I have, and I never really thought I'd be at that point. I guess none of us really think about that. When we're kids, it's grandma and grandpa are always going to be here. And I had to face my grandpa not being there when I was 10. So I'm just kind of wondering. And like Mom said, we're just going to kind of see how everything goes and how all this plays out and how your dad feels about it. And then we'll go from there.
And that sounds like you've got a good plan there between the communicating with your mom on this. So making the suggestion, maybe have her come down and stay with you for a couple weeks, getting that bond. I think that's a good idea. What you're thinking about is maybe that'll help your dad heal, bring back some bonding, maybe help you and Mom out. Do the fact of how you were thinking, you had the thought of grandparents weren't playing the grandparent role. Maybe this, your grandpa's passed away, but maybe this is an opportunity to get grandma down and maybe help bring up some of that comfort. I know she mentioned about, brothers and sisters throughout, as far as some of the issues and stuff. If it's hereditary, have you thought about researching a little bit more and find out if something like that is hereditary, or if that's just an individual?
Shelby and I've talked about it. I've been trying to find more out about it, but I haven't had the time to go completely into it either. I think my anxiety is more situationally related to things than, and I think that could possibly be the same with Shelby's, but I'm not 100% sure. And like I said, I just haven't had the time to completely dive into it, but I'd really like to find out more about it.
And do you think after everything's gone on this week, I know we were looking at a scale of 1 to 10 last week, how do you feel on that scale with the stress and anxiety? Do you think it's gone up more or decreased a little bit more for this week?
Probably about 8, 9.
Okay.